Hey, everybody, welcome aboard for this week's journey down 40 years with 40 beers. Who knows what's going to come out of our mouth this week? What's going on, bud?
Nothing much, man. This is, episode 12, right? So
It is.
I have two interesting Sopranos things I wanted to run by you, and I thought we could spend some time on that. So Silvio, I read an article somewhere. Silvio is the only character to never break, to never stray from the omerta principles, right? So like Paulie had weird stuff with Johnny Sack going on. Ralphie was constantly trying to change sides. Even Tony had a lot of crying and a lot of emotion with the animals. And
listen, Tony had his thing with Agent Harris.
Right, Agent Harris. He almost whacked out his sister-in-law, Christopher's wife. Like literally every male character who was part of Tony's crew or one of the mafia crews had a lot of break in their main personality. They had a lot of shady stuff. They had a lot of wavering sides. Silvio was the only man who stayed rock solid from start to finish. Now, I understand that role wasn't originally in existence, right? And David had to create something for him. The character that they carved out over time, Silvio never cried. He never ratted. He never spoke to another side. He never went against Tony's decisions, no matter how much he liked them. And sometimes he disagreed with them, like when the tile and the fiber optic cable with Patsy and all towards the end.
Yeah.
Silvio never did anything but be a phenomenal number two and stand by his guys. And even like with his wife, and there was never any nonsense. He had G.O.A.T, but there was never any drama. He was the most no nonsense guy on the show. And I don't think he gets enough credit for being a perfect example of what all those guys took an oath for and what they were actually supposed to be.
No, he certainly was the most stand-up guy. I mean, if you think about it, right, even when he was number one for a little bit, right, he never, ever, ever thought about screwing Tony over, screwing Carmela over. It was never a thought. But who was there trying to screw Carmela over, right? Paulie and Vito. They didn't want to give her the $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and it affected him emotionally to be number one. Like he was having breathing trouble and stuff like that. But you're right. As far as like he never abused that power, even though it was very, very brief.
Now, what was the whole thing where with the wire, right, with the fiber optic cable? Where remember he's like, now listen, if you're trying to test me,
yeah.
What was going on there? What was Silvio trying to accomplish there?
I just think he was it was a little bit of asserting his own authority, right? Because as number two, people always looked to Tony for that final decision. People always looked to Tony for that ruling. And I think there was a little bit of his pride got hurt to the point of like, I can make decisions. I should be the one people listen to sometimes. Technically, everybody besides Tony is under me. And God forbid you fucking listen to me. I think it was a little bit of that, but I also think it was a little bit of like he wanted Patsy as a friend, especially with the trajectory of Patsy becoming Tony's in-law. And it was just this idea of like everybody knew Christopher was going off on the deep end, and especially with the father-in-law and stuff like that there was too much going on there. And I think like it was a little bit respect my authority and not always Tony's, and it was a little bit of I need to make an ally in Patsy as things progress with him and Tony. And I need to get my guys back, even if it means creating a rift between Tony and I need to let Patsy know that I have his back. And that's where just like the whole do it once, do it twice, timelines got fucked up, and he never let it happen a third time. And I think like that was like his get out of jail free card with Tony. Like he only get one of them, you know what I mean? And like, that's what I mean. Like, Silvio never had any nonsense. So for that to happen twice, it was something Tony would let slip because that's not really who he is.
Now, I'm going to actually counter something here. I've been thinking about this while you were discussing everything.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't you say Christopher lived omerta until the day he died? Almost to a fault.
Yes, minus the drugs, 100%. But, well, and minus
Tony was doing a little fada yada yeech all of a sudden. And I remember when that happened, I was like, when did this start?
But it wasn't running his life and affecting his business the way Christopher was. That's number one. Number two, with the exception of putting true events, although no names were mentioned, with the exception of putting true events in his movie scripts and the drug problem, 100%, Christopher was at the top of that list. But the drug problem and the desire to be in the movie industry clashed so much with his day job. You just couldn't have that. You couldn't have the two. No, I told you, I'm a Christopher fan. On the last episode, I admitted that I cried when Tony killed him. But it was the drugs and no matter how much you covered it up, the drugs and the putting stories in movie scripts was two giant no-nos for the mob.
Well, yep. You know what? I forgot all about that. I forgot all about the fact that Tony was basically the basis for Cleaver.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot all about that. So you're basically, you broke out Omerta right there when you put all that stuff in the script. And then you said you had something else with The Sopranos, right?
Yeah, so the Ghostface Panda is his name on TikTok. I'll make sure I link it when the video goes up. So he said that the ending was actually Tony reliving his death dream in purgatory over and over again. He said that Tony's favorite movie was The Godfather. AJ reminds him of that when he tries to whack Junior and they're crying out front in the parking lot. And The Godfather, the beginning of The Godfather, whacks Palazzo and the captain in a restaurant. And then also in The Godfather, Vito is buying oranges when they shoot him. The first thing that Tony eats when he wakes up in the last episode is an orange. When he's talking to Carmela about not kicking the blonde broad out for purging cookies, when AJ is coming down the steps with his girlfriend. And then how there were only a very small amount of people who knew what Eugene actually was in real life. Like, only the audience knew Eugene was a rat and an informant and had a son with a drug problem and couldn't get out of the mafia to spend his money in Florida. But Eugene's brother thinks that all of the reason Eugene hung himself was because of Tony and not being able to get out of the life. So when Vito makes fun of Eugene's members-only jacket earlier in season 6, this guy says that the guy wearing the members-only jacket in the final scene is Eugene's brother, and it's Eugene's jacket. And he whacks Tony because he was the reason his brother hung himself. And that part that Christopher says where you're in an Irish bar in purgatory and you relive the same night over and over again and they whack him the same way over and over again. The guy says every time the bell rings in, what was the restaurant they were in?
Begins with an Holstein's.
Holstein's. The guy says every time the bell rings, it's the dream and the purgatory event starting over again.
Huh.
And I just thought that, and then that part about Bobby on the boat before they get in a fight, the Soprano.
You don't even hear it.
Like, you don't even hear it. So he put all that together in this TikTok video, and he was saying, like, if you listen to interviews with David, he'll tell you all the information is there the whole time.
Cuz, are you guys sitting down for dinners that I don't know about, you and Mr. Chase? And you're on a first name basis?
No, I mean, that's like everybody knows. If you know we're talking about Sopranos, you know who David is. So I just thought that was a wild interpretation, and I thought it deserved a conversation because I could totally, I don't know if I believe it all, but I could totally buy into all of that. And it's one of the most interesting theories I've ever heard about the ending, besides I don't like the fade to black, which I thought the fade to black was fantastic.
Yeah, now that I'm over it, I thought it was fantastic. When what first happened, I wanted to rip my TV off the wall.
I thought it was broken. I ran into the other room. I was watching it with my mom and my dad in the living room, and I ran into my bedroom because I thought the TV broke. And then as the credits come on, they're like, yeah, come on back in. It's working again. But what do you think about that? I think that's a wild connection that he made with all that stuff.
It is a wild connection. What I think truly happened was, I think it's the simplest answer. I think what happened was it was an unsanctioned hit on a New York mob boss that he didn't get permission from the other families, and that's who whacked him. That's what I think happened.
Yeah, I think but the little guy... Him and the little guy.
Usually the simplest conclusion is what happened.
First of all, it's not real life. It's a movie. And second of all, the little guy and him came to an agreement. They were going to pay Janice for whacking Bobby. And there was going to be, they weren't going to give the location of Phil, but they made a truce. Him and the little guy made a truce.
Yeah. The little guy with the eye. But he's just the underboss of one family.
But then they whacked Phil.
I get what you're saying, but I don't even think you're allowed to whack a boss inside your own family without, like, the commission or the the whole 5 families giving you the okay.
So you think an unsanctioned hit from a rogue family we never saw on screen in 86 hours is more likely than Eugene's brother?
I didn't say that. I said that's just what I think happened. I really like your theory. I like it a lot.
It's not mine. Ghostface he gets all
the gentleman. So I like it a lot. That's my theory. My theory is just that it was a simple, you know what? They never got permission from anybody else in New York, and that's why he got whacked. I mean, for all we know, the little guy got whacked off screen too, right? Yeah,
that's true. That's a good point. Let's assume Silvio dies and Tony dies. What does the head of the Mayo family look like at this point? I'm saying Paulie.
Gotta be Paulie. I mean, he's the only one who can take it. And
Paulie's
then Benny.
The new boss. Patsy's his number 2 and little Paulie's number 3.
Yeah, and then Benny's probably running a crew.
Yeah, Benny's a capo. Patsy's got to be number 2, right? Patsy would probably on paper be the boss because Meadow married his son, but Paulie would never let that happen.
Well, no. I mean, who else do you got? You got the other guy who came in, the guy who whacked Phil, the guy who actually whacked him. What's his name? He's got like a crazy, it's not even an Italian name.
Walden Bobby Casoto.
That's
Walden. He whacked Phil in Oyster Bay.
He did. He read it at the gas station. Remember, Agent Harris calls him and he's like, who was
yeah.
Oh, he's like, gets all excited on the phone. And Harris is, he hears in the meeting. He's like, we're going to win this thing. He's like, oh, that's great.
Walden. He's like, why you got such a bad name? What kind of Italian name is Walden? Oh, my God.
Wasn't he like, I'm named after Bobby Darin or something?
Walden Bobby Darin Casoto or something like that. Yeah, that's funny. He's Angie Bumpencero's nephew.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Now, he was a main guy.
Yeah, he had to have been. For them to let him go off on his own to Oyster Bay and whack Phil, he had to have been.
But they introduced these characters with like 4 episodes left in the whole series. You know what I mean? Where was he? All of a sudden, was he in prison? Like, give us a little bit of a backstory.
That's exactly what I'm about to do. Whatever Walden's real last name on the show is, Angie Bumpencero's maiden name is the same last name. Because in the season 2 opener, when Janice and Barbara are in Tony's backyard and they come down for the party, and Janice says Angie blah, 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 whatever the kid's real last name is. That's Angie's maiden name. And she's like, oh, Angie blah, blah, blah married Big Pussy. And it's the same last name that Walden has. So they're related somehow. But you really have to pay attention to connect those dots. They didn't make it easy for you to understand where he came from.
Okay. All right. But yeah, no, going back to your original topic, I agree. I could see that theory. It's not something that I would ever go, I can't. No, that makes no sense. Yeah, from totally everything that was laid out, it certainly is very possible, especially by the way, I'm not going to call him David. I'm going to call him Mr. Chase with a little bit of respect.
Mr. Chase. Like he's an 80-year-old man. He might be an 80-year-old man. I don't know.
With his genius of putting the show together, it's very, very possible. That's 100% correct.
And it was well thought out and was unique. So I just felt like it needed a shout out.
GOAT movie lines.
GOAT movie lines and GOAT album covers. A lot of people had extras to add in the comments. It wasn't, I mean, maybe it seemed that way, but it wasn't intended to be the 5 album covers we gave were the only great album covers on earth. It was just the 5 that came to our minds at that moment. But I wrote down some more. So the devil hit us with all the Iron Maiden covers, like actual artwork, what those skeletons and stuff. That's definitely like not talking about the music. And this is one of the problems Uncle Dave had with Pink Floyd, The Wall. He said the wall is just a picture of a white wall. And I was saying, like, Bobby and I were getting mixed up. Like, that's a great album. It might not necessarily be a great album cover. So,
but it's iconic. When you walk by, you know what the Walls album cover is.
Okay,
right. You know what Another Brick in the Walls album cover is. Right.
Is iconic the same as great artwork?
No.
What are we actually saying? Are we saying it's recognizable, or are we saying it's great art?
I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I think it's a difficult distinction, but I hear what you're saying. So, like, for example, Thriller is probably one of the most iconic, album covers, but it's not great art. It's just a picture of Michael Jackson, like, you know what I'm saying? But it's an iconic album.
All right, so we have to make that distinction, but I think it's all up for grabs.
Never mind. Like you brought up last time, never mind. That's not, I mean, I guess it's art, right? It is a medium. It's photography. But, that's an iconic album cover, but I wouldn't consider that iconic album art.
But it was only, but then you have to say to yourself, like, is the cover only iconic because the music was phenomenal?
No, because it's a baby in the pool.
But if Nirvana sucked and they didn't sell any records, our eyes would have never come across that cover.
Fair enough.
So it's hard to say. But somebody in the comments said Rina Sawayama has a great cover. I'm going to put pictures of all of them up as we're talking. I've never seen that before. Savage Mode by 21 Savage. Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher. Allegedly, somebody said that's a great cover. Okay. The Melodic Blue. We forgot this one, Sgt. Pepper. That's a classic cover.
You know what? What about now? Again, is this like iconic or great art? Because this isn't great art. Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. That's one of the most iconic albums ever in the history of music.
But then some of them, like Nevermind, Sgt. Pepper, Dark Side of the Moon, they're both.
Like I think you're.
And they're great covers, but it's also great music.
I think what we're better off doing is possibly most iconic albums in each genre.
So hold on, let me finish these covers because a lot of people, I compiled a list. Velvet Underground and Nico, Motley Crue, Dr. Death, Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers, Kanye's Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I don't necessarily agree with that. Radiohead, Kid A, Ready to Die, we forgot. Again, it's not artwork, but it's a great idea to take a photograph of a baby in that way. Yeah. Led Zeppelin, Purple Rain, and then Daft Punk, Random Access Memory with the motorcycle helmet or whatever.
Okay.
The lines get blurred too much between recognizable versus artwork versus good music versus not good music. I think it's a lot easier to just do great movie one-liners. So all the ones we had were totally up there, but then there's like Julia was saying in the comments, have you ever seen, I don't know if your kids were too old for Trolls 3? Maybe. One of the little characters is Tiny Diamond, and he just pops up and he's like, hold me, daddy. She was saying that was a good one. Van Wilder, Don't Take Life Too Serious. You'll never get out alive.
Oh, wait, these are the GOAT one-liners?
GOAT one-liners, yeah. No Crying in Baseball.
League of Their Own?
Yeah, that was a classic.
Let me see if I can them.
Yeah. Those three were added in the comments when we did the one-liners. GOAT Superhero.
GOAT Superhero. Turbo Teen. You don't even know who Turbo Teen is, do you? You know who Turbo Teen is, do you?
And 90% of the population hasn't even heard of it.
First of all, I said that as a joke. But do you know who Turbo Teen is?
Nah.
He was on USA, dude, on something every morning. He was like, he would turn into a car, and if he got wet, he had to get wet to turn back into a person. Yeah, no, the greatest. Come on, the greatest GOAT superhero is Spider-Man.
I can't argue with that. He's different from everybody else. Batman, Superman.
Batman's not a superhero.
Why not?
Batman's a man,
and Superman's got man in the title too. He's not a superhero.
What are you talking about? He's from another planet. He can fly. What can Batman do that any other man can't?
Okay, that's fair enough.
Batman's the greatest vigilante of all time.
I was saying Spider-Man's different from them in the sense of cape and belt and sidekick and dog and a girl. Spider-Man's got none of that shit. I mean, I guess you got Miles Morales and Gwen and all that kind of stuff, but that came a lot later. I would agree. Yeah. Spider-Man's the GOAT.
You know who else is the shit and doesn't get enough credit? Inspector motherfucking Gadget. Woo! He does not get enough credit.
Superhero?
I don't know that he's a superhero, but he's a badass.
Yeah, he is.
Think about everything he can do. Everything he can do. And it's all an act. I don't care what anybody says. It's all an act. He's not that clumsy, right? There's no way he messes up that much and still catches the criminal.
Did they ever make a movie out of that?
Yeah, Matthew Broderick.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's a classic.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
GOAT TV show. So obviously Sopranos and Wire don't count. Besides the Sopranos and the Wire, what would you say your GOAT TV show is? And then we'll parlay this into, you have a new series you want to talk about.
I mean, tell you what, it's impossible to say one. So you could say, how about we could say our next three?
His name's 15 superheroes.
Our next three after the Sopranos and the Wire.
Okay, but then I have a follow-up question. After you, give me your three, and then I want to ask you a follow-up question.
And it can't be a mini-series. It has to be multiple seasons.
Game of Thrones is up there?
Oh, yeah. Are you answering first or am I?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. So mine are Game of Thrones, Sons of Anarchy, The Shield.
So, okay, I rewatched The Sopranos once a year, every year since it ended. That's no bullshit. 1,000%. I rewatch the entire 86 episodes once a year. Do you rewatch Game of Thrones, The Shield, or whatever the other one was?
Yes.
To me, nothing is rewatchable besides Entourage and The Wire and Sopranos.
All right. I've rewatched Lost. I've rewatched Sons of Anarchy. I've rewatched.
Start to finish multiple times like we do The Sopranos, or just one more time?
Probably one more time. I mean, the only things that I've ever watched multiple times are The Sopranos and The Wire. It's the only thing.
And we're not talking about like you catch it by accident. That doesn't count.
Like I've watched it straight through, and just like every time I come home from work and I'm like, yeah, let me catch 3 or 4 more episodes.
Right. But like multiple years after Lost ended, you made it a point to go through every episode from start to finish at least once more. Never. I couldn't even imagine a world where I was able to do that with anything but The Sopranos or The Wire. And Entourage.
Okay, I've done it with Entourage. I rewatched Entourage.
I rewatched Entourage. And Curb. I rewatched Curb. That's a classic.
Yeah, maybe I will do that. Did you ever watch Ballers?
Well, yes, I didn't finish it though. I didn't watch like the last 2 or 3 episodes. I never finished.
Awesome.
Ballers was great. Joe was a great character. I think he was a better character than The Rock. Yeah. I put Curb up there. I would say Curb, Entourage, and Game of Thrones are my top 3, minus The Sopranos and The Wire. I have a great way to close things out. I think I just stumbled on these movies for the first time a couple days ago. I think we could solve all of our problems with a Purge.
First time
Have you seen The Purge?
Are you crazy? Have I seen The Purge? Come on, Mo. The first
I didn't even know they existed.
How great is the first one where Ethan Hawke, you find out, he's like, yeah, I've been robbing everybody blind for the past 5 years. The systems really don't work.
They just look like they're supposed to work. They don't actually work. And his wife and daughter are like, what the fuck? So I had no idea these movies existed. I didn't know it was a franchise, a TV show, 5 movies. I just finished an album, a 10-track album. And one of the songs is called The Purge. And the intro is the broad saying like,
"This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials of ranking 10
So I used that instrumental on the album. But then, like, I was talking to Poop, and he's like, nah, dog, it's real. Like, that's a thing. So I looked it up, and it was a franchise. So I'm not crazy about Ethan Hawke, but I enjoyed the first one very much.
The first one's phenomenal.
I thought the second one was better, though.
Yeah,
with Frank
the second one's
Grillo.
good.
And, like, they bidding on them all and stuff like that. But the
whole
concept of, like, the concept as a movie, like, as a horror franchise or genre was wild to me. And, like, when you hear people talk about it, like it's a real thing, like, oh, what are your purge plans tonight? And how the wealthy bid on people to purge. And I just thought it was wild. And I'm only 2 in. I have to watch Purge Election Night or something like that. The one with the broad from Lost.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I have a crazy question for you. The Purge is real. Do you already know who the first person you would kill is? You don't have to say them, but do you know? Like, do you know in your mind?
1,000%. 1,000%. I don't know if I could bring myself to actually pull it off, but I got a list for sure. I mean, everybody's got a list. If you sit down and think of a list.
Yeah, I'm not that angry.
No, but like, I mean, come on. Like, if you everything hinges on, it's not just murder. Like, what I would like them to show more of is like, and they touched on it a very little bit in the second movie where they went downtown, and Frank Grillo's character's like, downtown's always empty because the banks moved their money. Like, nobody is hacking Bitcoin. Nobody's stealing money. Nobody's robbing TVs and electronics. No homeless people are eating food. Like, so I've only seen 2, but they're only focused on murder. There's so much more.
Or getting away. Or hiding from being murdered.
Right, which is understandable. But there's so much more crime to be committed besides murder. I hope that some of the other, it doesn't look like the trailer for the third one is doing anything but murder either. But I would set my sights on all kinds of other crazy stuff besides murder. So, like, why can't you come out of the Purge a billionaire? Fuck murdering people.
Yeah, like that's, it's a great question. I think like we talked about in the first one, right? Like Ethan Hawke figured out that, if I sell these security systems to normal everyday people, they won't know any better. It's going to be a visual deterrent. People won't really, the purgers won't try to break in. They're going to be worried about the people in the street. I would have to think banks and things that have that type of, vaults and shit like that, they have a much higher security system for the purge, right?
Yeah, but but then, like, explosive companies probably are selling. Like, imagine if that's real for multiple years. Like, explosive companies have to be selling purge kits, and God knows what else could happen. Like, unless everybody from the bank is in front of the vault protecting it on the night of the purge, and they're not with their families trying to stay alive, like, you have to be able to, or what about electronically? Like, not all the servers in the world don't shut down. You have to be able to steal money somehow. Nobody's stealing a fucking Bentley. The homeless people ain't eating. Like, all they're focusing on is murder. There's got to be so much more better stuff than murder to get away with from a criminal standpoint.
Yeah, no, I never thought about that. That's a great point to bring up. I'll tell you what, I'd be walking around in one of those bomb disposal suits. You ever see those? You know what I'm talking about? I'd be walking around in one of those with a goddamn flamethrower.
Nope, that's another thing. Nobody stole a fucking painting, nothing, a diamond, nothing. Bullshit.
There's too, yeah, right. Nobody broke into a jewelry store.
No, I would have the Mona Lisa hanging in my bedroom. I mean, come on, there's so much more creative shit than murder. But listen, Mo, I got to get out of here.
All right, that's perfect. Let me know how it is.
All right, I'll talk to you.
All right, later, customer.